Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Well, today's video is going to be a little bit different. Normally, we're going to we go to a location and we kind of do our rock hounding, and then we pick up stuff and we go. This is a little different in that we are driving from Soap Lake in central Washington up to the Electric City, Cooley, and we're going to be hitting a bunch of road cuts. Getting out, doing a little bit of hiking, looking at some interesting rocks and minerals, because those are two different things. And it should be fun. Behind us is Soap Lake. It's pretty back there, and we're going to be heading north that way. On the website, there'll be like a pin at the start and at the end. So doesn't matter what direction you're going to be going, but it's a good drive and it should be a lot of fun. And maybe we'll find some interesting stuff.
See some basalt.
Yeah, we're gonna look at some basalts. There's a lot of different calcium carbonate minerals, calcites, maybe find some opal. I'm probably forgetting some stuff. We're gonna look at some interesting granites. That'll be fun. And right now we'll look at the bank here of Soap Lake. It looks a little scummy. I don't know if I would swim here. You swim here?
Not this time of year.
It's a good lake for looking. I don't know about swimming.
I mean, people used to bathe in it. I don't know if people swim in it.
I think I'm good. Let's go find some rocks. Yeah, so here's Soap Lake still. First kind of turnout. You can see we have some columnar basalt going up, and then down below there's this white stuff. Yeah. You know, when you go to these things, be a little cautious, right? All right. So, calcareous tuff is what we have here. Some of this, like this right here, because this was a lake at one point, we have this nice little shell. Look at that right there. Check that out. Yeah. That's a good little shell. Mm-hmm. Very lightweight. Now, a lot of this stuff will fluoresce. Obviously, that doesn't really work. That doesn't really work in the middle of the day. But it'd be really awesome if you're out here in the evening to come with like a high powerful UV light and I don't know, watch this stuff glow. Now look at all those little shells. We also have some kind of calcium carbonate buildup here on the basalt. You can kind of see right there, it's like just a layer on this stuff. So I think it's important to point out, if you're going to be following along with what we're doing here, things like that, right, that overhang, you want to be a little cautious of that. I know the video probably doesn't do it justice, but that right there is like, goes back about 3 feet, and then you're kind of fully under columnar basalt, which, although these columns are very stable, like you can see we got a bunch of loose stuff here. So when you're hitting these road cuts, at least be slightly mindful that you could become flat. But that's kind of interesting, all that lake sediment calcium carbonate buildup.
It's a lot.
Yeah. So to be more specific about some of this material, a lot of it is aragonite. Now if you go and like Google image search aragonite, you will not see this. But if you look at some of the different minerals that have been collected out here by other people and identified, on Mindat, things like that, you'll see that a lot of this white stuff is aragonite.
It's got some little like needle-like crystals in there, or needle-like something.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, so I mean, the way this stuff forms, I mean, it's like any other crystal in that you have space for it to grow, basically. We'll probably take a couple little pieces and we can take them back and look at them under the microscope. So right now, It is at the end of March. End of March on a weekday, which means the traffic's not that bad, but this highway will be super busy come, August. So maybe pick your times wisely. So I'm going to be taking this little piece back here so we can maybe look at it under the microscope. I'm going to maybe find one more here, and we'll wrap it up in foil so that it makes its way home safe and sound. But interesting stuff to see. Cool formation, very cool. Right back here is Lake Lenore. This is an interesting location to observe some of the different basalt flows that we're going to be seeing on this trip. There's columns there, and there's columns behind me. Well, I guess in front of me. So this whole thing was basically carved out as dry falls, which I'll show you at the end of this trip, worked its way up. So imagine a giant waterfall here, and it keeps undercutting and scooping out and backing up that direction. As it does that, that was like, 15,000, 13,000 years ago. And we have these basalt flows that are about 15 million years ago. And we have a number of flows here. You can actually see, kind of in the shadow here, all of these columns. The columns being the bottom of the flow, and then it becomes more vesicular up at the top of the flow. All right, a little further down. Now, I'm not much of a shell guy, but look at that. These things are everywhere in here. Sarah doesn't have a mic on, so she's gonna have to mime her excitement.
Oh.
Yeah? But no, look, all of these little white bits, that's all of them. Like, look at this.
Yeah.
Look, these are all these perfect little shells. That's pretty cool. Maybe we'll take 2 of them. Oh, look, that's what they're all eroding out of. Here, little shell. That's another little perfect shell. That's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah, it's like, oh wait, here's one. Like, they're just everywhere in here. They're so well defined. Maybe maybe somebody can let me know what these things are. So right now we are walking out to the Lake Lenore caves. Don't hold me to this. They're not actually a cave. They are a rock shelter out here in the basalt flows. It kind of got like undercut and scooped out during the Missoula floods, but still pretty cool. It's just not a real cave. You do need a Discover Pass to park here, but I think it's worth it. The Discover Pass in general is worth it. It's like 30 bucks. Use them all around Washington.
Per year.
Per year.
30 bucks.
Save you a hefty $125 ticket. Now here's the first one. I believe there's a couple here. You can kind of see that it's more rock shelter than it is cave, but it's still kind of cool. And then the trail goes around a little bit. So there's something that I've never been to, but it's still pretty cool, and that is the Rhino Hole. And the Rhino Hole is exactly what it sounds like. So Washington was a very different place 15 to 13 million years ago. And while there is a hole in some basalt out here, and I forget the exact year, but they discovered that it's shaped like a rhino. A rhino that was kind of poofy, inflated, if you will, and on its back. Now, the theory is that it died. It was bloated. It was floating in water. The basaltic lavas moved in, started to pillow around it, encase it, and well, there's a hole in the basalt, shaped like a rhino floating on its back. The Burke Museum in Seattle, they have a casting of it, and then there's a small replica at the Dry Falls Visitor Center. But I think you might need special permission access to actually go visit the rhino hole. There's definitely no trail to the thing, and I think it's on private property. But yeah, that. It looks like there's something over there. Let's go check that thing out. Yeah, this little one is cave-like. I don't know if I'd want to hang out in there for a long period of time.
It was raining really hard.
Yeah, I guess. All that stuff came down, though.
Yeah. Come on.
It's pretty out here. Yeah. Even though all of this stuff was once hanging, especially you look at these pieces over here, we're looking at the bottom of these columns. So these are all hexagons and pentagons, and looks like that's a good example of one. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's cool. Neat to see the columns like that. You can see the benefit of having a cool rock shelter like this thousands of years ago, hanging out, not being cooked in the summer sun. So up there is the caves. Kind of wanted to check out these basalt formations, see if there's anything cool. I have a suspicion that there is something cool. Kind of want to look at that right there. I assume what that is similar to this stuff, where we have some very vesicular basalt. Very light. But when you have vesicular basalt that's very light, the possibilities of interesting mineralization happening in those vugs. So behind me right there, that is pillow basalt. So we've shown this a couple of times. If you go and look at the Deep Creek videos, that is very reminiscent to some of the material that's in the upper Deep Creek portion, which we haven't actually shown here on the channel. But so pretty much it's volcanic glass that was created when these basaltic lava flows dumped into water and just like rapidly cooled it. It's not obsidian. That's something different. But it has the characteristic of that brown, that brown plagonite. We'll go look at some plagonite. You can see stuff is very much so little bits of let's see, how about that for that, very glassy. And then I think we can get close to the transition zone here. Hey, look, a shell. There we go. Okay, so this is some palagonite. Very crusty and dusty. Not really something you would ever really collect, but it's more so look at it and be like, cool, and then move on. So we've been kind of stopping periodically and checking out road cuts like this, mostly looking for opal as we start to approach Dry Falls. There is a road cut that's really good, really safe to pull over at, and I've found some good opal there in the past. We've yet to get to that one, but this spot is also pretty good. How's this for a place to potentially hang out on a hot summer day? Doesn't get much better than that. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like there's any rocks right there. this little road cut here has got a great view. And this road cut right here is one that I found opalin once upon yonder about a year ago. There's a little piece of opal. Yeah, it's still coming out of there for sure. It would appear that somebody broke a rock here, and there's some type of blue mineral, bluish mineral on the inside of these vesicular pieces of basalt. It could just be a standard carbonate. I'm not exactly sure, but they're one way to find out, right? That's to collect a couple of pieces here that seem good, and maybe that piece, and then we can take it back and we can test it. So this is Dry Falls. Earlier, I was telling you how during the Missoula floods, everything that you were seeing was being carved out. Well, the water is pouring off of here. This was a waterfall. Carved it out. There's the pool at the bottom of it. After this, as we continue up north towards Electric City, we're going to be along Banks Lake for a good portion of it, but it will be interesting. We're going to stop at Steamboat Rock, and then we start to get into, get away from some of the basalts and get into more granitic rock, which is interesting in its own way. All right, so all of this in here is Banks Lake, and that is Steamboat Rock. And those are some very perfect basalt columns up there. So bottom of a basalt flow, the top of another one, and then, you know, you can see maybe down there, there's even more columns as it stretches out because we got multiple flows going on here. You can drive all the way down there, it looks like. Yeah, beautiful blue water. That back there is Steamboat Rock. So you can easily walk all the way to the top up there. We're probably not going to go all that way today, but there is something kind of neat that I would like to show you. So we're going to cut through here, and then we're going to probably go up right in there, and yeah, you'll see it when we get to it. So down there is the campground, okay? But this is really neat. All of this is all granite, right? That is all basalt. Those columns extend down through that sloughed off pile at the base and get down here. Well, let's talk about how and why that is. All of this basalt originated down by like Oregon, Washington, Idaho, flowed all the way up here, okay? Before this basalt was here, these huge flows, we had granite here. So we're right at this margin, okay? If you look back there, right there, after we walk up here, we're going to be continuing north towards Electric City, and we get away from all of this basalt. Well, this is what we walked up here to see, and if you wanted to, well, you can hike all the way to the top. We're not doing that. So this is a piece of granite sitting on top of Steamboat Rock, which is all basalt. So the story how this thing got here, you can see somebody chipped this off. I believe Central Washington University geology students have done some of the chipping up on the rocks here. So this was rafted in on ice from the Missoula floods, which is kind of cool. You think about all of this underwater here, okay? Think about big chunks of ice coming through, a piece of granite this size, and as the waters recede, it plops down on top of all this stuff. And there's other pieces, you know, there's little pieces of granite up here, right up, let's see if we could zoom in. Right there, right in the middle of your screen, there's another one. There's another one. And I know there's more. So it's interesting to think about the story behind that. It is kind of a short and steep hike from the parking lot. What do you say, Sarah? 2/3 of a mile?
Yeah.
2/3 of a mile. Go up about 400 foot. So I kind of had this plan, right? We were going to go about a mile north of here, which that's like 4 miles south of Electric City, and go to Jones Bay to look for pegmatites in the granite. Except Jones Bay is closed in the wintertime for habitat restoration. So we are at, where are we at? Northrop? Northrop Point. This thing right here. So we are out of all the basalts and we are in the granites. Granite everywhere. However, this stuff has so much moss on it, and I don't really see much in the way of pegmatites. Not to say that it's not here. There's actually a kind of a pretty nice rock actually in the parking lot near the toilet that had some bigger biotites, and I'll show you. But I don't know. As I look at this, it reminds me of some of the Roadcuts back there, which we've stopped at in the past, and I didn't really see anything too awesome. So if you're watching this and you go to Jones Bay, please write me an email if you found anything cool. Currently rockhounding@gmail.com. And I think we're going to wrap this one up, and we'll see you back at the shop because I have some interesting stuff that we collected out here, and we can look at it up close and clean. What do you think, Leica? Sarah? Yeah?
Yeah. Good day. Good route. Good trip.
I think so. Yeah, so this is the parking lot. So you have quartz. Look at that big piece of biotite right there. That's cool. No well-formed pegmatites, but you got like smoky quartz. Yeah, very cool. If only I'll look. I mean, if that was exposed right there, that'd probably be like a big sheet of biotite. Yeah, neat stuff. Salt, a toilet. Kind of on this trip, I really wanted to showcase some of the diversity that Central Washington has to offer. And also just how much cool and interesting stuff you can find on just like a drive between two towns, stopping and just looking at some stuff. I don't think most people would have expected to see a shell like this in this type of condition out there. You know, I don't know anything about shells. So who knows what they actually are. Maybe if somebody leaves a comment, I'll give that thing a little pin down there. And then we have our calcium carbonate, which, you know, this piece of sensite is a little weathered. Doesn't actually look that great under the microscope, is what it is. I could have probably found some more opal had I spent more time there looking at opal, maybe kicking over some rocks, doing a little bit of picking around, but we had a lot to see that day, a lot. Well, the two pieces that are quite the surprise, this little chunky piece of basalt that came out of the same road cut as that opal, well, all of those little colored vugs are absolutely amazing under the microscope. It's all lined with chalcedony, there's tube structures, tubes of chalcedony, which, I mean, I've seen many times. It's very interesting to see. Some of the tubes are quite spectacular. And there's also some little calcite balls, which that's another thing that I have seen a number of times in that area. And I've even seen some really big calcite balls. But these two were a surprise. And, you know, you could spend some serious time investigating each one of these like little vugs on there. And it would be quite the job to try to take photos of all of them. But these two pieces alone, that's endless amounts of time hanging out in front of the microscope. Well, I hope you liked this video. I know it's a little bit different than what we usually post, but that's okay, right? I mean, sometimes you just want to show how neat things are. And, you know, maybe if you think that there's not interesting stuff where you live, maybe you could see this and it'll give you a little bit of a different perspective. Well, y'all take care, and I will catch you guys on the next video.